Hey everyone, welcome back to Red Tech Live. I am so excited because today we're talking about camera to cloud technology and integration with Frame.io, V-Raptor, and V-Raptor XL. And we have Michael Cioni with us. Hey Michael, how's it going?
It is going well, Cleigh. Thank you for having me. Excited.
Yeah, we are so excited to talk about this. It's really going to take workflows for set work, for all kinds of different applications to the next level. And I'm just really excited to hear the wealth of knowledge that you're going to bring to us today.
Yeah, this is actually a really good example of these major step changes that we've all gone through. So we're going to definitely dive into the tech, but we're also going to talk about the theory and the process and setting up our state of mind for the early adoption transition that this really is going to mean.
Amazing, amazing. So I know we're going to start walking through, like you said, sort of the process, the thinking behind it, and also the steps it's taken over the last couple of years. You want to start taking it away and giving us some stuff to think about here, Michael?
Absolutely. Let's start at the top. Let's go to the keynote here and we'll start transitioning and talking about our process. And so, again, my name is Michael. I'm a senior director at Adobe and run the innovation department, which focuses on camera to cloud. But I'm from Los Angeles. And in Los Angeles, we don't walk very often. So we're going to take a little stroll down memory lane here before we get going. And I want to say part of the reason I'm so excited to be here is because Red is a community of people that challenge the status quo. Its leadership has been doing this for years, and the community that's behind Red is something that I've always been passionate about because we're willing to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And these photos from more than a decade ago with Jim and Jared are really a prelude to a relationship that is really significant and has been growing for years. In fact, I found this old photo, and for many of you in the Red Story, you've been part of this the whole time. And think about these apps. Remember Red Alert? I saw Graham on here. Graham, amazing work way back then when we had that stuff, right? And then we had Red Cine, and this is Rocket Cine. I mean, people probably don't even remember what that was. What's Rocket Cine?
Everybody whip out your red rocket cards, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, it was very, very early stuff. And this was all about inventing a workflow because even though Red came out with the first cinema universally available 4K file-based capture solution, the workflow was totally new. It was a great idea, but how do we figure out how to do it? And this is just a snapshot in history. At the time, it didn't mean anything, but it's like there were all these tools and all these tools did different things. And now it's just like automatic and we're getting ProRes right in the camera. And it used to be totally different. So I love seeing this old presentation. But then after the year 2010, Red had the first camera called the MX sensor. So if you've been here a long time, you remember the MX. If you haven't, this was the biggest breakthrough in a CMOS capture because it was an 800 speed sensor. And a decade ago, that was really profound. And so we had worked on the film The Social Network, which was the very first movie shot by Jeff Cronenweth and directed by David Fincher. It was the first movie that used the Red MX sensor. It was very prototypical, very early. But this was where things started to evolve and change. And this is where we started to see changes coming out of Red and exploring and experimenting. And after finishing The Social Network, David had said, why can't we just watch the playback on an iPad? Now, iPads were new in 2010 too. And it was like, why can't we see that? If we're not on tape, why can't we just hit play? And so the idea of Camera to Cloud was born more than a decade ago. And it was first proposed to me by David Fincher, and he deserves tremendous credit for having the foresight and foreknowledge on this. And then this is a picture of a rifle case that we bought at like Walmart, and we were able to put all this equipment in there. There's old Teradeks in there, and we had an app called Live Play, and then we demonstrated it at Red Studios, and we started doing tests with how to transmit Red proxy recordings from cameras to an iPad. It didn't work, by the way. This was so early. There was no AWS. There was barely 3G. People were not streaming video. The cloud was just way off. But this is where it starts. And you got to have visionaries. And David's certainly a visionary. Tyler right there standing next to him. You've all seen his work, whether you know who he is a tremendous editor. But these are people that were willing to take risks early on and forge it. And I didn't know we were 10, 12 years away from where we are today, but we have gotten there. In fact, if I would have known it would have taken 12 years to get here, I probably wouldn't have done it, to be honest. But here we are. And I believe this is a true revelation. This is an absolute revelation for collaboration. And we're going to change collaboration forever. And if you remember the transition from film to tape or tape to files or HD to 4K, you were part of those revelations as well. But this one is about collaboration, not about acquisition. It's a different flavor of change. And it's really, really exciting. Now, if you're not familiar with Frame.io, we are a cloud-based collaboration app. Our mission is to connect the world's creators with their audiences and collaborators so that we're putting everything in the cloud for collaboration in a centralized place. We do this with Apple TV, we do this on the web, and we do this with iPad and iPhone. And these are the resources that people can see perspectives of all their work in different flavors for collaboration. And it's been really great, but if we think about it, what does transition really mean? And I want to go back in time here, because if we're talking about something profound, we have to remember that we've done this before. And this is a really important, like, visual mental exercise. 20 years ago, you probably saw the first HD TV or maybe heard of it, but you didn't own it, right? You just knew it was there. You didn't own it because adoption doesn't come at the moment you learn something traditionally. So it took time. In fact, it took almost 10 years to switch from standard def to high def, even though 20 years ago it was available. Or think about 15 years ago. Most people in the world were seeing film prints in the theaters. And this digital projection, this DLP technology was sort of interesting, but it took 10 years for that to really fully transition. And it wasn't something that was overnight. By the time you heard about DLP projection technology, you probably hadn't seen a digital projection. My friends and I used to call the theaters and say, can we see so-and-so? I remember calling to see if I could watch Iron Man, the first Iron Man, on a digital projection. And I had to call all the theaters to find a DLP projector. And half the theaters just like hung up on you. The other few, And there were cool kids working at theaters that were like, oh my gosh, you know what a DLP is? You know what a Christie is? You know what a Barco is? Yeah, you got to go to this screening, this room, this time. And I was
that was me. That was me a couple years before in the projection booth at my theater that I worked at in my hometown.
That's right. That's exactly right. So this transition took time, but we heard about digital before we could project it and watch it. 10 years ago, some people were still shooting on tape. And this idea of files didn't change overnight. And so it took time for people to switch from tape to files. Some of you were there in the early adopters, but some people took their time to do it. They just didn't trust it yet. And even 5 years ago, the transition from SDR to HDR, people probably heard about HDR TVs or things like Dolby Vision, but they didn't own one. Now you can't even buy an SDR TV. It's impossible, basically. Right. And so this is an exercise to demonstrate that we have been here before. There are monumental, cataclysmic technical changes that happen throughout our media and entertainment history, but you hear about it before you adopt it. And what we're looking for today is a picture of where we're going to be in the year 2031. Because we can take the information, the experiences from these transitions in the past, we can apply them going forward and start to build a roadmap of where we're going to be. And then once we look at that roadmap and understand it, we can figure out where we are on that transition journey. Are we an early adopter? Are we a late adopter? Or are we going to be with most people in the middle? That's up to everybody. And there is really no right or wrong answer. But some of us are gluttons for punishment. And I think the Red community has always been fast to being early adopters. So in order to space this out, we have to figure out where we're going to be in a decade. And something really different is going to be the case, a standard. The normal way of working 10 years from now is there won't be media cards in cameras that are removable and shuttle drives to ship. Now, cameras are going to have internal caches. They're going to still be able to capture. I mean, an SD card in 9 years will be over 2.5 petabytes of storage. So you can fit a lot of media inside cameras in the future, but they probably won't be removable after the year 2031. Sometime before that, people will stop removing them very often, but they will probably eventually go away. In fact, if you think the principle of an iPhone or an Android, the way you get media off this today, the easiest way is through the cloud, right? There isn't a removable SD card to even get out of these things. And the same principle will make its way first into the consumer and mid-market cameras like mirrorless DSLRs, and then eventually into professional cinema and broadcast cameras. So we're going to see the media cards eventually go away. That's a technological certainty that pretty much every media manufacturer and the camera companies sort of understand and mostly basically in some ways look forward to when we can do that. So how are we going to get the media off? Because we can't really do that right now. So let's look at where we started this idea of actually connecting cameras to clouds last year. In March of 2021, Frame.io launched Camera to Cloud. We announced it, we launched it. It was very new. We had one customer. It was a Michael Bay film called Songbird. And they were our first customer, heart of the pandemic, to try shooting to the cloud. And we had one customer. We were doing about 100 assets a day. Well, after that started, it's really, really grown. And now we have this external proxy recorder. And Teradek was the original partner of this. And they're monumentally important to this story because you put a little box on the top of your camera, and then every time you record, it captures a proxy file, and then it transmits it through LTE modems to the cloud. So you're getting a tiny little file uploaded through an external recorder. Now that's really great, but there's a couple of limitations with that, like metadata and off speed and linking and timecode perfection and things like that. So an external recorder is extremely convenient, but it's not perfect. So what happens in the year 2026 is we're basically going to see a transition. So we go from the external recorders in the year 2021, and in the year 2026, we see internal proxy recording. What that means is cameras are starting to capture smaller files inside, and they're capturing them simultaneously with their RAW files. Now, some cameras already do that. The Red already captures ProRes. In fact, many of the Red cameras for years have captured a proxy file inside sidecard with their RAW file, which is forward thinking, really great engineering.
Early adopters, like you said earlier, right?
That's right.
Willing to test the waters.
Willing to test the waters. And it's a really powerful thing that people have really unlocked Red workflows with these proxy files. But the challenge is these are now internal proxy files, and they're going to be doing cloud uploads, but the cloud is still developing. And what's going to happen is between the years 26 and 28, we are going to see a tipping point where the telecom companies and satellite internet, Wi-Fi 6 and 5G millimeter wavelength technologies like that are going to mature enough that by the year 2028, we will be able to pretty reliably upload RAW files to the cloud. Today, it is really hard and specific to do that. You have to have everything in line to have the bandwidth to upload RAW. But by 2028, that's going to become pretty normal. And if you think back about internet 8 years ago, 16 years ago, and so on, you're going to see that bandwidth mapped, and you're going to see what bandwidth becomes available and where we were in 2010 versus 2000 versus 1990, right? And if we do that math and we go to 2030, we can already see where we're going to go. And satellite internet really helps us increase the range so that you don't have to be near cities in order to have access to the cloud. So this is really going to change. And what's really exciting about this is that everyone in media and entertainment, regardless of what you do, what role you play, or what device you use, every electronic generated asset a decade from now will be born in the cloud. Documents, stills, video, metadata, pictures, sound, audio, whatever. It's all going to be born in the cloud. And so this is a transition that all manufacturers are going to go through. And Red is the very first camera to be able to make this happen today. So while I'm talking about the year 2028, someone might be like, wait, but isn't this webinar today all about RAW to the cloud today? Yes, it is. Yep. But you are the people that are going to bleed for it, right? Like this is where it's going to hurt. And maybe we'll watch this video, Cleigh, in 2028 and be like, did we get there? Did it happen?
Right.
YouTube should probably be around in 2028. And we'll know for sure then. But until then, I really feel that this is where we're in the bleeding edge stages. And this is where the Red community is the most vital and has been here before and done this. And so we got to remember our training and our experiences in the past and use that to pioneer a new workflow going forward. Ultimately, this revelation looks like this. And this is a mission. I talked about Jim and Jared. I talked about David Fincher. I talked about all my colleagues for my entire career, which is now 24 years. This is all I've been after. All I want to do is collect picture and sound and connect it to cutting rooms. That's all I want. If you know me, I've built these mobile post-production solutions. I built iPad apps and daily reviewing apps and tried to simply connect the little red record buttons to editor timelines. Because all I want to do is have no more creative delays between someone who acquires an asset and someone who's supposed to work with it and see it and view it and manipulate it and give that feedback. That's why Frame.io is like the greatest company to work for, because it's all about collaboration. Our entire business is about allowing people to communicate so that creative barriers are less restrictive and that anxiety can be depleted because you're less anxious because you can see what's going on. This is our mission in the Camera Cloud story. And this is our mission at Frame.io, to create a collaboration platform that connects all the creatives with their collaborators. And Camera to Cloud is the first step in doing that because it's the acquisition phase. And today, what is so exciting, we have a special announcement that we'll be announcing. This is all about the next evolution of Camera to Cloud and cloud technology, which is internal record, capture, and transmission that is totally frictionless, totally in the background, totally reliable. I just want to brag on the Red engineering team. Jeff Goodman and his team are incredible human beings. I've known Jeff for many, many years. And he has, it's just one part of an amazing amount of talent. And if you have been with Red for a long time, you've seen the technology continue to just reach so much further than other technologies. Pound for pound, Red cameras have incredible tech. And what they can do spec-wise is just far-reaching over everybody else. And people have to chase and catch up. And this particular integration, in terms of reliability specifically, is unbelievable. And maybe we'll get really risky and I'll show a really, really powerful example of how reliable the tech is. But I know what's really great about what Jeff and Alex and the team has done at Red is that they have made it so that your weakest point in a cloud workflow is actually the internet, not the camera. And that's important for the crews, that they don't have to worry about what the camera's doing. If you can get reliable internet, this thing just happens in the background. And that's crucial about achieving this next milestone.
Yes.
So what are some of the goals that we've achieved here? What are some of the things we set up? Well, we've got this available in the V-Raptor and V-Raptor XL bodies. These are the newest products from Red. They are incredible machines. I own them. I'm shooting with them every day. These are incredible tools. And so what's unique about this is you might be thinking, haven't cameras had Wi-Fi connections before and Ethernet connections before? Yes. But what's special about the Red V-Raptor and V-Raptor XL is they're the first cameras to use these networking ports as offloading for media, not communication, right? And so it's media offload in sort of a new way. Typically in most cameras, the way to get media off a camera is through a removable card. And now we can have network offloading instead of magazine offloading. In most cases, we're going to do both. And that's the right way to work today.
Yep.
But network offloading is possible to be your standalone depending on your workflow. So what do we have in the Raptors? Well, we've got a direct integration with Frame.io. You can set this to do formatting with Red Code or ProRes, and you can choose all the flavors of ProRes, HQ422, and LT. And you can do that in 4K or HD. It's up to you. Now, what's also really cool about this is we talked about you can do this over wireless, which is Wi-Fi 5, and you can do this over USB-C, and that gives you an Ethernet connection. Now, both cameras have access to a USB-C port, and this is a device that I recommend looking at because the USB-C will not give you a direct connection to a switch typically. So you need to go through an Ethernet adapter. The one that I've been using successfully is called a QNAP, and this is a 5G-based QNAP adapter. It's about 3 inches long, and you can see it mounted there on the camera. So if you want the best performance, the USB-C adapter is going to give you over 2,000 megabits per second if you have access to that kind of network. So for high-speed situations in like stages, this is incredible because this basically means you can upload 8K RAW plus ProRes at about 95% real time. And once it gets in Frame.io, you have multiple copies. It's already backed up. It's already checksummed. It's already transferable and shareable. I mean, it's done, and there's already multiple copies. I believe Frame.io's reliability is 99.9% with 11 nines. That is the mathematical calculation, I believe. Abanov will have to check me on that, our head of security. But basically, that's our percentage of how likely this is to be available in the cloud. And that's a lot higher than shipping a hard drive, right? The chances of getting a hard drive or a mag failing are actually greater than 99.9 with 11 nines. So it's very...
And the idea, I just wanted to cut in really quick, Michael, and say that the idea that like in the past, our safety was the mag, right? And so you're putting it on hard drives and you're sending hard drives and handing hard drives off and crossing your fingers pretty much every time because of the reliability of hard drives is often questionable. Now we're looking at something that is so secure that even that mag is sort of a, oh, okay, whatever, as long as it's on the cloud, we've got this security. We know we've got these shots in the bag and we can start working on them immediately. Like that's an amazing, amazing thought.
It's right. It is a new thought. And the other thing about that is what will happen in people's behavioral changes. I don't really know. I'm guessing at some things, but right now you're right. The mag is where we call the backup, and then you transfer it to hard drive. And when the hard drives are verified, you release the mags. Well, the same principle can be done with raw files, except you can do all that while it's happening because you can verify assets on site or off site from the cloud while you're on set, so that you can release the mags even the same day if you wanted to. So that actually can mean people can invest in less and fewer mags if they have a workflow that allows them to have multiple gigabits per second up. So I don't want to be misunderstood here. You're going to need 2,000 megabits or better in order to have that workflow possible. But if you don't have that, then the wireless is capable of up to 200 megabits. Now, if you're in the 200 megabit range, that means you can upload ProRes. ProRes LT is an option, and then you're able to use hard drives for your raw file transmission and ProRes for your instant editorial and your instant review and your instant download and cutting. So this is a different combination of workflow based on bandwidth availability. And so it's important to think about these two choices. But a QNAP adapter or an adapter similar is required for your V-Raptor to connect to the cloud. And you got to think about where to mount that and where to put it. Someday we'll laugh at these cables. We always have umbilicals when we start anything, right?
Right.
And then, you know, it's funny because the funny thing about recording things like this is that you watch them years later. But like today, you still see a few people with headphones with cables when you walk around the world, right? Yeah. And not everybody has gone wireless headphones yet. But can you imagine like 4 or 5 years from now seeing a cabled headphone? Like umbilicals go away, right? And headphone cables are going away right now. Well, we're just starting high performance bandwidth and we need a cable for that. And someday we won't. And we're looking forward to that.
Yes.
Now, when we think about bandwidth options, this is an important metric just to familiarize yourself with, because you want to figure out, what do I need to achieve real time? And in order to achieve real time, these are the codecs, you know, at the highest performance codecs, you know, HQ through ELQ in 8K. So at the highest resolution the cameras can shoot, this tells you how many megabytes per second you need to be able to have in order to upload to achieve real time. And then there's your ProRes. And you can see the smallest ProRes, which, let's be honest, the most likely option for people to try this workflow out is to use ProRes LT in HD mode, and that needs about 80 megabits per second. So if you've got 40 megabits per second, well, that means 5 minutes of ProRes is going to take 10 minutes to upload, right? Now, where do I get that 10 minutes? Well, the way that the camera works is most of the time, this isn't always true, but most of the time, in order to shoot an hour or two of material, it takes 6 to 10 hours to shoot it. So you have a lot of downtime. So the idea here is that the camera is uploading in the background when it's not rolling. And so you're taking advantage of available bandwidth to upload, as opposed to waiting for the card to be full and then initiating a download of everything and then pushing that to an upload at some later date. You're simply using downtime on set or near set to upload the material while you're not shooting. And if you shoot 2 to 3 hours of footage a day and you have 10 or 12 hours to shoot it, you probably can upload ProRes. It's just going to take all day to finish, and it's just going to trickle out as you shoot. I use this workflow a lot, using the ProRes workflow when I'm in the field and have to use hotspots to do it. So it's a really interesting approach. So
yeah, I was thinking about that as you said it earlier. That I mean, really, when I think back to being on set, like the last time I was there, I mean, usually you do a take, and the downtime in between the next take is usually a little bit longer than the take itself, right? And the idea that then a scene change comes up, or a setup move, or even a reverse angle comes up, and you're really extending the amount of time that the camera is just sort of idly sitting. And in this type of workflow, you're actually getting use out of the camera in that time, which is like an amazing thing to think about as far as efficiency on set and clearing out at the end of the day for taillights.
That is a great example of a narrative rhythm that you just described where it works. It also made me think of a nonfiction rhythm, because in nonfiction, sometimes the cadence is to shoot a bunch of stuff and then you wait and shoot nothing, like in sports. Like there's a lot of action, then there's nothing, then there's a lot. What's cool about the Raptor solution is it queues up all your takes in a queue, and you can see how many takes you have, and it'll just publish them and count 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, and it'll just count down and deliver them all. So in narrative, you might have 1 or 2 in the queue, and it pushes them out while you're doing a relight or a turnaround. But in narrative, you might shoot 10 or 20 clips and have them queued up, and then you set the camera down when you rest or you're waiting for the next thing, and then it's publishing then. So there's different rhythms. And again, as bandwidth improves, this will always improve. So this is an important slide to kind of understand where your world is. What I don't want people to do is shoot an 8K 17:9 HQ file and try to upload it through a phone's hotspot. Someone's going to do that, and then they're going to write us a nasty email. They're going to be upset and say, this doesn't work. That is like sucking a bowling ball through a garden hose. It's just not going to work. And so you have to really level out your workflow based on what bandwidth you have. And the Red product is giving us a way to sort of do that. So we've talked about this, and now it's time to start to demonstrate it. And, and you know what I didn't do? I need to do this. I'm so sorry. We have Rob Laughlin answering questions here, and I should have done that at the beginning. I'm sorry, Rob. But Rob's here answering questions. I can't see them. I'm sure he's feverishly typing away. But Rob is an expert in our field technology and technology strategy team at Frame.io. And he probably knows the answer to every Camera Cloud question because he's experienced them all, every problem. So hopefully he's doing that. Now, what we're doing right here, before we jump back to my camera, let's jump back to my camera. We're using a product here. This is from a friend of mine named Willis Chung. Willis runs a company called Sclera Digital. This is a bonded modem, and it runs off a camera battery, which is really cool. So I can have a camera battery powering this modem, and it allows us to upload in the field. And he just has a little baby pin here. So this just goes on a C-stand, without a knuckle, and you just run a camera battery. This is a gold mount solution, and this is going to look for 4 different towers and aggregate the 2 best together. So inside here, he's got a T-Mobile, a Sprint, a Verizon, and an AT&T in North America, and it'll find those 2 networks, and it'll present that as a ubiquitous Wi-Fi hotspot. So it's using cell phone modems to find the towers and presenting that as a single SSID, so that the camera is only connecting to one SSID and one passphrase every day, but it's constantly the modem's actually looking for the network. And that's how we're doing this today. So awesome. What I'm going to do now is actually transition to going to the camera here. So in order to do that, I'm going to punch in here, and give me 1 second to turn over and get this in focus. And now we're seeing our Raptor, and you can see right here, I've got a little antenna. So this is my antenna. So we are doing this wirelessly. This is the worst case scenario. I am going to upload RAW files and ProRes files through a cell phone a modem. And this is trying to be worst case scenario. I'm also going to put my phone here because we're going to show the entire process of authentication. And so in order to do that, we'll get this ready here. Okay, so let me see here. Okay, so we're going to look at the camera, and let me just turn this out of the way so you get a good shot of the camera here. And so the first thing we're going to do is go into our menu, and we see that there's a communication tab. Inside of communication, there's a new menu called cloud uploading. When I click on cloud uploading, the first thing I can choose is to enable it. So I enable that, and I see Frame.io is a service built into the camera. And then when I choose Frame.io, I have an option to connect, because right now it's disconnected. This is really, really important here. What happens is when I hit connect, there is going to be a 6-digit code generated, but the code comes from Frame.io. So the camera is actually going to be talking to Frame.io, and we're opening up a socket to get that information. So now it's going to make a call to Frame.io, and it's giving us the code. So now
that sounds great for people concerned with security on set as well.
That's right. This is a one-way tunnel. So now I'm going to go to my phone here, and I'm going to hit add device. So this is Frame.io. This is my Frame.io app, and I have the option to add a device. When I hit add device, I have a place to put the 6-digit code, 354051. And now what happens is the phone is making that connection to Frame.io and to the camera. We got the code right. Hopefully my phone's online. We're confirming the code. And once we get this code confirmed, we'll be able to connect these two together. So I don't know why I'm not having that. So let me just try again. Make sure my phone's online. It's possible my phone is not. Let me just try it one more time. 354051. And maybe it's not. Let me just kill my Wi-Fi and go to cell here and try one more time. 354051. Up to the 354051. All right, let me just try one more time. That's all right. We're going to hit connect again. I've only done
Gotta
this.
love live demos.
That's all right. I've done this 2,000 times. I just generated a new code, 3039228. And we'll try one more time here. So
there we go.
I don't know what I don't know. Maybe I was on a network that wasn't solid for my phone, but this camera is online. So what I'm now receiving is a red serial number. So I have the camera serial number, my user, and the destination that I've chosen in Frame.io where I want the media to go. And when I hit finish, it will connect the camera directly to Frame.io. So we'll be done here. And now we can see nice. I've got a red connected directly inside of Frame.io, and it shows me I'm connected. The project is called Camera to Cloud, and I am the creator. So I really think that problem right there was my phone not being online or having a problem with the internet, because the camera was definitely online. So that's okay. It can happen. So we just reset the code and we were good to go. So that can happen. So the next thing that's really important is being able to decide what file types I want to upload. This is actually my favorite menu because it actually allows us to decide which files you want to upload. So if you do not have the bandwidth for red code, turn it off. If you do, turn it on. If you're actually just going to shoot raw and you don't need ProRes and you're on a hard line, you can use that configuration. So this is very configurable. If you don't want the WAV file or the CDL and LUTs, you can turn those on. So you have a lot of choices here for what you want to include. For this demonstration, I'm going to do all three. I'm going to connect all of these together. And now I can see everything is connected right here. And I can see I have 0 clips remaining. And so I've got nothing to show for it right now. So what I'm going to do is hit record. So I'm going to hit record, and then I'm going to hit cut. And as soon as I hit cut, I'm going to switch to my laptop now. Oh, record error. Now we got something else happening. That's fun. Possible hardware error was detected. Well, this is why we have betas, and we'll talk about that.
You know what? We actually did something, James, if you want to switch me up, and we can go to my second angle here. We're connected on my camera as well, which I think is a really, really cool feature. So we're super far away. We can go in and we can hit communication, cloud upload, Frame.io, and you see here that we're connected directly, right? So that means that I can go in and exactly like Michael was just saying, I can rip a clip really fast. Boom, there we go. The clip is now uploading. You can see here that I've got this little arrow going up and down, meaning that I've got files that are going into the cloud right now as we speak.
That's right. So if we switch to, I'm going to let my camera reboot here. If we switch back to my computer, we can see a date showed up called December 6th. Today is December 6th. Inside that date, we have a video folder. Inside that video folder, it says B-Cam. Once I get my camera, I believe it is now, I'm going to rip a take and see if I get lucky. I rip a take there, and we'll see if that's going to transition and upload. We can see inside of here, we've got B camera and B camera. This is the shot that Cleigh just shot. And it matches the same RDC folder structure as all the other assets. So you can see here, all the assets show up just like, so I've got my LUT that's installed, I've got my CDL, my thumbnail, my raw file, and my ProRes file. If I go back, I can see now there's an A camera. And here is the A camera shot that I just shot. It's uploading right now. And so my camera is now back online. It's uploading and it's back to where it should be. In fact, it's going to, if I record several takes here, so I'm going to hit record, cut, record, cut, record, cut. Now I'm running a queue. And I can see a queue of assets in my computer uploading, right? Because now they're all going. So I'm going to refocus the camera on myself so that I am now visible. But here we have a good way to describe these assets coming in here. So I can see I have 10, 11, and 12. And every asset that I record, it's going to add another. So if I hit record again, it's going to add another one. And the other beauty of this workflow is that it can go into Premiere Pro. But before I do that, I want everyone else to be able to participate as well. So right here is a QR code. I promise we won't spam you. If you click this QR code, it will actually bring you to the link that Cleigh and I are shooting right now, so that you can actually get the same clips we're doing. Because remember, Frame.io is a collaboration tool connecting creatives with your collaborators. So this is an example of how that can be done. We've made a public link through this. So if you scan that, it'll unlock a little Frame.io account. You can click at the bottom, like watch the video or take me to the video or watch now, and it'll bring you right to the assets. And so you're able to see that. Now your phone and like Safari and Chrome cannot debayer red code. So if you're trying to play a red file in the cloud, you can't do that on browsers. But there are little tricks in here. In fact, if you look at this file, you're going to notice there's two ProRes files here. One has the suffix 001, the other doesn't. This file was generated by the camera. This file is actually a transcode from the raw file. So we are actually able in Frame.io to transcode raw files, but that is a custom action. And so it's not something that's available automatically, but it's something that can be programmed through custom actions at Frame.io. And Derek Schweigart on our team actually built a R3D transcoder, and he was able to generate a ProRes file. And so I'm actually getting a ProRes here automatically. So the reason that's significant is it is possible to transcode raw even though you can't see it, or you can use the ProRes the camera generates. Then I have the ability to go in Premiere Pro, and in Premiere Pro, now we have a Review with Frame.io window. And so you can go to your window, you can choose Review with Frame.io, and it means you can access your Frame.io material from within Premiere Pro. So if I go into ACAM and I grab an asset and I grab a red file and a ProRes, I can import these assets into Frame.io. And now, whoops, that was a mistake. I can now take these assets, and if I put the ProRes there, and then I grab the R3D and I put that there, and I just resize this. Here we can see our ProRes and our raw. There's the raw file. You can see it says R3D right here, and underneath it is the ProRes. And I can generate those and pull those in, and now I have perfect parity between my raw file and my ProRes, so I can edit the ProRes and relink to the raw because they are the perfect matches from each other. So I have the ability to do that. I also can see here a note. Alyssa Rooney has actually made a note in here. And so I have the ability to go in here and actually respond to Alyssa. Thank you. And now Becca's responding, and I can say, will do. And if anyone else in this viewing right now wants to click on this asset, the asset I'm in, you can see is A1C13. If you go into A1C13 and click on the ProRes file that has the 001 at the end, you can actually make a comment, and I can see those comments in Premiere Pro. This is totally a new way of collaborating because we're actually having a conversation, and I'm the editor having a conversation here, and other people can make notes. So that's something that everybody can do, which is extremely powerful workflow that I can drive that. I can even link my notes. So if I click here, I can transition and it'll take me to different parts of the timeline. So this is a very powerful way to work, very new type of workflow, and very cool. So we were able to do those transitions. And it's important that that QR code kind of demonstrates that. So this is a really cool way to work because we are shooting RAW, we're shooting ProRes, and we're able to do that. Now because I had a little hiccup, I don't want people to get afraid of this because hiccups can happen. And that was a rare hiccup, but I'm going to do something else. I want to show you something. Because I made a hiccup, I'm going to now really take a risk because I feel I lost some trust. So what I'm going to do is roll a tape. I'm going to roll like a 5 or 6 second take here. And what's going to happen here is I'm going to let it start uploading. And right now it's going to start uploading. I can go to Red Control Pro, and I can connect to my camera, and I can start seeing I can connect to cameras here, and I can go to communication. I can see cloud upload, and I can see it's going to take 2 minutes to upload the clip that I have. So this is a cool UI control that I could see. So it's got 2 minutes to go. It's uploading at 10 megabits per second over LTE. Here's what I'm going to do. James, go to my video image here. I just want people to see this. I'm just going to do something horrible for the camera. I'm just going to pull the power in the middle of an upload. All right? There.
Ooh.
So this is the worst case scenario. And this is what I want to show in terms of reliability. I'm going to plug the power back in, and I'm not going to touch anything. I'm going to let the camera reboot, and I probably will have to hit OK, but I'm not going to touch anything because Alex and Jeff and the team at Red have made this so robust that it can even handle a hard pull in the middle of an asset. And since I had a little trouble connecting, this is our alpha firmware right here. But this is a real example of where we can go. So if I go back to my camera and I see clip 14, we see it's not here. The thumbnail is there and none of the other material is there. And if we go into Red, it doesn't really see a camera right now because Red Control can't see the camera, and the camera's going to be connecting. So I'm just going to hit OK, and we're going to let the camera come back here, and we're going to see what happens because what's so important is automatic background retries of assets, and we want to see those results happen as quickly.
Yeah, that's huge. I also wanted to call out that I saw a comment a little bit earlier, like, oh, are you guys going to only upload in 4K? While this has all been going on, I ripped a quick 8K clip when I changed my settings on my camera, and that's already in that B camera folder. It's already uploaded. We're really able to push this far. We are keeping it as tight as we can for the purposes of our demonstration. But as you can see, there's a second clip now. That one's in 8K. So we are able to do these things. We're just trying to keep it, clean for you guys. I'm really excited to see this pickup on failed upload because that's something that I think is huge for a lot of workflows. I mean, occasionally these things happen. Sets are wild places, right? Cameras go down, there's all kinds of different circumstances in which this could happen. So it's good to see that this is a possibility.
And I think I can see I think this is your camera uploading right now. So, we have material cameras and media uploading, and this is telling us what we're doing and where we're going and how it's connected. And so it's really powerful to see it's now connected and it's uploading again. And so we have the ability to see it's moving these new assets that are shot and uploading all that material right into here right now. So that is how it automatically picked up the result, and now it's moving those uploads right now, and it automatically connected and is reconnecting and republishing. And the other thing you can do is you can see on the home screen, there is a little upload icon that Red has added. So if you don't have Red Control Pro, you can see that happening.
Yep, and that's that arrow one I was pointing out earlier, where it's giving you an indication, hey, something's going up into the cloud, something's happening here with a file upload.
So the last thing we want to talk about before we make an important announcement is where we are in adoption. And I'm really excited to share some of the adoption of Camera to Cloud, because I want you to know that you're not alone in being an early adopter of this. So far, almost 6,000 productions have used Camera to Cloud. And obviously they haven't used Raptors yet because that hasn't come out, but there are the other solutions that we have with Camera to Cloud. 6,000 productions. Over 4,000 devices are connected. And when we connect them once, we track a unique device connected once. So those are mainly Teradek Cubes and Atomis Ninja Connects and Filmic Pro apps. And we are on our way to 600,000 takes have been uploaded to the cloud through Camera to Cloud, which is incredible because 600,000 takes in parking lots and cornfields and houses. It's incredible to see so far just using LTE and Wi-Fi hotspots with external recorders that we're on our way to 1 million takes. And speaking of 1 million, this is a really incredible number. Over 1 million minutes of clips have already been uploaded this way for instant directly to the editor. So 1 million clips, 1 million minutes of clips have delivered to editors to start cutting, start reviewing, start watching, start commenting, all of those assets together. So it's a really, really important attribute of the program that we've been building. And when it comes to reliable networking, I cannot stress how vital this is to your roadmap and your plan. If you are not familiar or experienced with networking, it's imperative that you start building that muscle. It's new with this type of technology. And these are 3 companies that are good friends of ours that we really love. First Mile, Mr. Net, and Sclera are all technologies that use bonded modems. They can use LTE, 5G, or satellite solutions that allow people, and these are just a few people we've worked with successfully, and we really stand by their tools. They don't work with Frame.io. They don't work for Frame.io. They're just friends of ours who have really gotten really good, really skilled at preferred bonded priorities with network connections. And they've been really good about building solutions that are for the set. There's a lot of ways to connect to the internet, but camera crews need an easy way that goes in a backpack or even on the back of a camera. And so this is a different class of networking experts. And so I recommend reaching out to them to learn more and get information. But these people can bring the internet to places that nobody else can and make it set worthy.
That's a huge benefit. Camera teams have so much to think about.
Yeah, it's really hard to think about how many things you have to do, and this is a new thing. And I know that's going to be tough. But remember, hard drives were new, file-based was new, 4K was new, HDR was, everything's new until it's not. And then eventually becomes a standard. So Sclera makes these. Here's a modem on the left that is actually in line with the camera. And then we've got a First Mile photo where they're like in the Swiss Alps and they're using satellite where they're in the mountains. And then even using commercial hotspots. And this is an extreme example. A long ago, I was flying over the Atlantic Ocean and I had my Komodo and I had a Teradek Cube and I had a little GLNet adapter. If you look closer, there's a little GLNet there. I used the GLNet in my laptop to get on the Wi-Fi. This is a Virgin flight. And I got on the network and I used the GL to connect to my Komodo. And then I literally walked the cabin and I was shooting to the cloud at 35,000 feet going 600 miles an hour.
Wow.
It's ridiculous. I know it's ridiculous. And someone's like, well, what is the point of doing that? There really is no point. It's just an example of showing how extreme we can take it. If you can shoot to your, and I actually took this review link and I shared it on my Instagram to people on the ground. And I just said, these clips are happening right now. Are you getting these? I just wanted feedback from the community. And people on the ground were watching the clips, making comments through a review link sent through Instagram.
Wow.
and I alerted all my followers. And this is a crazy example of communication and collaboration. And remember, at the beginning, that's what the fundamental foundation of what Frame.io means. It's a collaboration hub. We are here to connect the creative community with collaborators. And you cannot make a project by yourself. You need a team. And we don't want that team to be governed by waiting for shipping. We want to build workflows that don't involve FedEx anymore. And if we can deliver a airplane shot, and I'm walking around until the flight attendants were like, "Sir, what are you doing? You must sit down. You cannot do that." It was like the middle of the night, and so I was taking some liberties, and I got more and more bold until they got mad at me. So that's ultimately where we're going. So in terms of early adoption, I want to sort of round the bases with this. Look, this may not be for you today. That's okay. It's okay because this is new. It is very, very, very different. And you may not see all the benefits. A lot of our conversations with people, they say, "I don't get it." I've been told I don't get it by pretty much every technology in the last 24 years that's come across. Like, "I don't need that. We don't need it." Okay, fine. That just means it's not for you today. That's okay. But mark my words, you'll be back around to this over the next several years. Shooting directly into NLEs, like I described and showed, where we move the file right into Premiere Pro, that's going to become a standard. Editors will eventually expect to be able to just cut from files shot right into their bins. That's going to become a standard. And Adobe's really committed to making that experience best in class. But this does work with Resolve and Final Cut as well. And there are Avid workflows to make this work as well. Camera to Cloud creates and modifies existing jobs. Every time we do a shoot, we have a paid DIT on our sets, and the last two DITs, Stan and Mick, were saying, "This is awesome. This is really, really exciting," and they see the value of uploading, of being able to manage network and manage uploading. They're still doing color correction. They're still doing those other attributes. Today, they're still downloading the cards, but they can also just upload them. And we have had shoots where the DITs only monitor the uploads and do not download at all. We have done that. And we have perfect parity where we never downloaded any of the cards. And when we ran out of cards, we just recycled and reformatted, and they were never downloaded. They were only uploaded. That will become a standard. And there'll be a pivot in people's minds where they realize what they've been doing for years is downloading magazines to drives just to upload them to the cloud somewhere else. Just skip it. Just get that upload out of the way and get the collaboration going.
Yeah, that direct DIT to editor connection seems like such a huge leap for productivity to go straight from, hey, this is on set, especially when you're looking at projects with really tight turnarounds. The idea of looking at early takes and the editor sitting at home waiting for those to roll in and being able to work immediately straight off of what's coming from the DIT card is huge. I mean, to me, that's where this starts to be shining even right now, even at this stage of it. It seems like such an amazing piece of tech.
That's right. And lastly, and this is my plea to the Red community. The Red community has been doing this for so long, has been an early adopter, a pioneer, challenging the status quo and being comfortable with being uncomfortable. There are so many great people out there that have bled for Red, and Red bleeds back. And it's because of this community that Red has. It's unlike any other community that I know of in our business. It's those people that are the early adopters and are willing to try new things and forge forward. And eventually what becomes trendy actually becomes a standard. And we have these fads that start as little fads, and then they get trendy, and then they become standards. And the Red community is responsible for a lot of that happening. When I worked on the DXL program with Red and Panavision 6-7 years ago, this was a time where the idea of 8K was laughable. People laughed at it. And they said, "This will never materialize. No one will need this." And we made shirts because when we first did it, Jared showed me the first 8K Monstro sensor. Oh, it wasn't Monstro. It was just a Dragon sensor. The first 8K Dragon sensor, Jared showed it to me. And we did our first test shoot because Panavision had lenses that could cover 46 millimeters. And back in 2014, there were very few lenses available that covered 46 mil. And we went and shot, and Aaron Kroger, a friend of mine, shot this helicopter footage. And we made these shirts at Cinegear, and they said 8K possible because it was only possible back then. In 2014, this was possible, but not usable, not friendly, not cheap, it was just barely possible. And that's what we're talking about with these cloud technologies. Right now, shooting 8K to cloud is possible, and it'll become easy someday. And so it's really exciting to talk now and make a really important announcement. In 5 minutes at 11 a.m., the beta will go live. And I am so thrilled. And I do want to just special thanks to everyone. The CEO of Frame.io is Emery Wells. The founder, Emery and John Traver, they built a platform where collaboration makes this possible. I want to thank Jared Land for having the vision to recognize this, David Fincher, who really inspired this. And David, Jared, and I had a meeting in 2019 talking about this stuff, about what would be possible. And it required an incredible amount of engineering, both in just making these beautiful cameras, but also adding cloud functionality into them. And so the beta is being available today. So by the time anyone else watches this, you can go to the Frame.io website or the Red website and get access to the beta. In fact, on the Red web, on the Frame.io, let's try this, frame.io /C2C/Red. Here is our website. And right there is a link to the firmware, which is going to be available in minutes. So you can start trying the beta out and allowing us to get the feedback. This is important for us because we need the feedback from the community so we can make this better and better over time. And we want to make it stronger so that we have a more stable and reliable solution for when we go to public final release. There's a lot to learn here. There's a lot to do, but there's a lot that's happened. And I'm so thankful for the teams that have made this possible. I also want to thank my team, the Camera to Cloud team, the engineer, Austin, and Rob, who's answering all the questions. And there's a real small army of talented professionals that have been really passionate about bringing camera to the cloud. And we are massive friends and fans of the Red technology and engineering teams. And it's this symbiotic relationship between cloud and camera that has never been more elegant and never been more exciting than it is with the Red V-Raptors. So we really want to encourage this community to go for the beta. If you want a Raptor, it's time to try it out and give us feedback and let us know what we can do to make it better, because today, this technology is as bad as it will ever be. And tomorrow, it'll get a little better and a little better. And if we are able to work through a couple of hiccups and get it to the screen, then we know we're doing something right, which is really important. And here I can see, here is, if we go back to my screen sharing, this is the clip that I shot at 1040 that I pulled the plug on. And I'm happy to say that ProRes file is up. So the camera delivered the asset even amidst a catastrophic failure of pulling the power. And that makes me happy that we can do that. So.
Amazing. Yeah, and from this side, I mean, as someone who creates content and uses Frame.io on the daily for approvals, for all of these different things, I just want to say thank you, Michael, for this forward thinking, and the place that we've gotten to in this technology is just amazing to see. I'm super excited for what people are going to do with it. I know we're running a little bit long, so we'll try to get some questions in here. So if anybody has stuff that they want to pop up, any questions that they don't feel like have been answered yet, go ahead and hit us. All right, is there going to be software updates for the Monstro 8K so we can use this new technology? Unfortunately, no is the answer.
Simple answer is the Monstros don't have the ability to move a network offload, right? That's a brand new tech in Red. So you use Teradek cubes, Teradek serves, Teradek prisms, and Adamus Ninja Connects and Shogun Connects. Those devices will take your Monstro and turn it into the cloud.
Totally. Okay, how does a workflow with DIT using CDLs, or how is a DIT to CDL workflow affected with this method?
I got to show it real quick. So if we can go back to my screen, I have that prepared. I'm so glad somebody asked that. Here I have LiveGrade. Patrick Renner and his team built a cloud integration with ShotHub. So if I create, and it has a Frame.io integration. So if I create a new CDL, there I've generated a CDL in LiveGrade. 3, 2, 1. What's going to happen is that CDL is going to transmit into Frame.io. It generated a new folder automatically called Looks. Inside of Looks, it says, oh, there's a LiveGrade access, and then there is the CDL. If I make a change to that CDL, so I'll make a little adjustment, and then I just do an update to the same CDL, meaning I modified the CDL instead of made a new one, what'll happen is it will version stack that asset. And now the new CDL is on top and the old one's on bottom. So it stacks those. So that's the answer to being able to get a CDL connected to this process.
Amazing. It feels like this is so well thought out. I mean, I know that it's been rolling for a long time, but it's early, but it's usable. I mean, we're doing things and demoing things here, and you're showing stats of people actually employing this technology. And it's something that for me, I'm so excited, because it's like, it's one thing to talk about it and another thing to see the fruits of that labor and to see it really coming to fruition and creating possibilities within our sets and our workflows. All right, I'm not seeing too many questions coming in, so I think we're probably going to wrap this one up. We're so excited that everyone came out. Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Michael, if you have any last words, go ahead and hit us with them now.
Thank you for everybody's help in this, and most importantly, get out there and shoot, and just it's like starting a garage band, right? You just got to get out and make stuff and just break it. And that information is how we got here. How Red cameras are so stable and so powerful is because of this community's willingness to try new things. And if you want to try a cloud workflow, let us know. Stay tuned. Follow us on social, and we will show you how we can help connect you to the cloud going forward.
Thank you so much for tuning into Red Tech Live, everyone. And I'm going to second what Michael said. Go out there and create something.